outermost barrier that separates the inside of the body from the external environment. Thermoregulation, we will discuss this further later, how the skin and its other structures can help increase or decrease the temperature of the body in an attempt to maintain homeostasis. Blood reservoir, you already saw this in the dermis, in the model. You have a lot of blood vessels there. That's why there are instances that when you have a superficial wound, or let's say a paper cut, it doesn't really produce any bleeding because the epidermis is not vascular. But if you have a deeper wound that extends up to the dermis, then that's the time that you will expect bleeding to happen. Okay, because the blood vessels are located much deeper into the layer of the dermis. Okay, cutaneous sensation, of course, because of our sensory receptors. Excretion. So, excretion means you are expelling toxic substances from the body, and you can also absorb substances that are lathered on the area of the skin. That's why skincare is a trend. No, there are substances that you can cover the surface area of the skin, and it can just absorb that material. So that depends on what material is being placed. And then vitamin D synthesis. That's why there's a myth, well, not really a myth, but a misunderstood information about why we need to go outside and get some sun in order to get vitamin D. So we'll explain this one further later. Okay. So as you can see in the photo, you know, we have different types of skin. We have different coloration, but all of them, they perform the same type of functions. So it's just the pigment that's different, making the skin color different, or the hair color, even the irises, the eye color. So they're different because of a very specific pigment that we will discuss later. Okay. So this is the model of the skin that you saw in the laboratory. So hopefully you will not forget the structures that you were able to pinpoint, because this will help you visualize whenever you have conditions that affect the skin. Okay. So the skin is also known as the cutaneous membrane. So anything with a name that is cutaneous is referring to the skin. Okay, cutaneous sensation, meaning sensation on the skin. So cutaneous membrane is the covering. Okay, it covers the external surface of the body and is considered the largest organ of the entire body. So the answer will change if the question is the largest organ inside the body. Okay, the largest organ of the whole body is the skin, but the largest organ inside the body is the liver. Okay, so it can span up to 2 square meters and is as heavy as 4.5 to 5 kilograms. So 7% of your total body weight. Okay, so ganyan siya ka expansive. So in terms of function, so let's go to thermoregulation. So again, the body's many systems, they act in congruence to each other in an attempt to maintain homeostasis or balance. Okay, so in order to maintain balance of temperature, di ba, we have to maintain within 36.5 to 37.2. So in order to be within that range, the skin will help either increase or decrease our body temperature. So the most common function that will help with thermoregulation is our ability to sweat. Okay, so sweating is an action of a sweat gland, particularly your eccrine sweat glands. So these are the sweat glands that are capable of thermoregulation, because whenever there is an increase in body temperature, the eccrine sweat glands will be stimulated to produce sweat. Okay, and when the water from the skin evaporates, that's the part that helps to lower the body temperature. Okay, so it removes excess heat inside the body through the sweat. Okay, what else? Thermoregulation can also happen based on the reaction of the blood vessels that are present on the level of the dermis. So in the dermis, you can find the arteries and the veins in the area. So in particular, when the arteries vasodilate, when the first name is vaso, that is referring to a blood vessel. Okay? So dilate means to increase the diameter, and constrict means to narrow the diameter. So when you vasodilate a blood vessel, it causes no, opening of the blood vessel. Therefore, more blood will go into the area. So because of the blood no, rushing into the area, because of the vasodilation, no, blood carries warmth with it. So that's why when the blood vessels open up, no, the skin flushes. No, it turns red or pinkish. So in the na situation when a person blushes because nag-open up yung blood vessel nila. Or when you go into a very hot environment, diba, you turn pink or you turn reddish because all of the blood vessels will vasodilate to distribute the heat. Okay? To keep heat inside the body naman, the blood vessels in the dermis will vasoconstrict. So when you vasoconstrict, you are limiting blood from going into that area. So the vasoconstriction will help keep blood no, in areas that need the warmth more. So you're preventing vasodilation, you're preventing the distribution of heat so that you can keep it within the body. Okay. So whenever you need to distribute heat, you vasodilate. Whenever you need to keep the heat or the warmth inside, you vasoconstrict the blood vessels. Do we get it? Nagets yon? Okay. So in terms of thermoregulation, you sweat to decrease the blood, to decrease the temperature. In terms of blood vessel reaction, to distribute heat, you vasodilate. To keep it within the body, you vasoconstrict. Okay. Another reaction that is necessary for thermoregulation is when you are put in a cold environment. Okay, so when you go to an area that no, is below the normal temperature that is capable of keeping you warm, no, to kag place na na ay winter, or the air conditioning is too low, then the natural reaction of the body, diba, you become pale. So you become pale because the blood vessels will vasoconstrict to keep the heat inside. And at the same time, the body will also start to shiver because muscle contraction will also help with um, production of heat. Okay. And you also see the hair on your extremities start to stand up because the erector pili muscles are, they are muscles. So when they contract, they also generate heat. Okay, so that depends on what the temperature is. Okay, so if you're in a hot environment, then you distribute heat. That's why you flush, and then you sweat. But when you're in somewhere cold, your extremities start to turn pale because the blood vessels will vasoconstrict, and you start to shiver, and the hairs on your body will start to stand. Okay. Next is your protection, of course, because it's the external surface. It keeps bacteria, dust, debris from the outside from coming inside. That's why when there is a break on the skin, it can lead to infection because you are inviting external or foreign substances to enter into the skin. So when you have a wound, we have to clean it properly and then cover it so that we are making up for the loss of protection in the area. Okay. Other forms of protection are also because of our sebaceous glands. The sebaceous glands will produce your sebum or the oil. It helps to prevent dehydration. It also helps to maintain the skin moisture. But an excess in sebum, when you don't clean it up, that's the time that some people develop acne. But it's not necessarily because of the sebum, it's just that there was bacteria that came in contact with the sebum. Okay. Are we familiar with pH levels? Iba how acidic or how basic solution is. So the body itself no, has a pH level. Diba? We have to maintain inside the body 7.35 to 7.45. That's the pH level inside the blood to maintain homeostasis. But the pH level of your skin is more acidic because an acid environment will help bacteria develop less. Okay? Most of the bacterial population do not grow or cannot survive in acidic environment. So the skin has a more acidic pH in order to help with prevention of your bacterial growth. Okay, that's why we have to Be careful with what you put on the skin because if it changes the pH level, then it increases the risk of bacterial growth. Okay, do we get it? So there is also a role in protection from your sebaceous glands and the pH of the skin. Okay, another form of protection is also the skin color. So melanin is the pigment that helps produce the skin color, how brown you are, how light you are, even the hair and other pigmented parts of the body are because of the melanin. So in areas that are closer to the sun, more exposed to ultraviolet rays, you would expect them to have more melanin. That's why the skin color of these people will appear more dark. Okay, darker sila because the more you are exposed to the sun, the more melanin is being produced inside the body because it is a form of protection against UV rays. Okay? UV rays, no, it's very toxic to the skin. It can lead to skin cancer. That's why um, the light colored people or the Western, the white population, they are more at risk for skin cancer because they have less melanin in their skin. Okay? We also have cells at the epidermis that are capable of immune responses. That's your intra. Intra means within the dermis or the skin. Intradermal macrophages. So macrophages are white blood cells. So they are capable of fighting off whatever foreign substances enter the body. That's why kapag may sugat ka, nagre-red ka agad siya because there's an immune response immediately from our macrophages. Okay, they're also the ones that call for backup whenever they cannot handle it alone. Have we seen the anime na Cells at Work? Nakakita na mo, ana. So that was the very no accurate representation of our immune system and our blood because in fairness, they did the research, 'di ba? We usually had very few neutrophils in the area, and then when they can no longer fight it off, they call for backup from the lymphocytes or from the macrophages. But in the skin, the first line of defense, we already have a macrophage in the area. And whenever the macrophages have to fight off an infection, they release a signal to recruit other white blood cells so that they can help take over pag namatay na yung macrophage. Okay? So that's our protection. Your blood reservoir, again, it's in the dermis because the blood vessels are located in the dermis. Okay, it's rich in vascular supply. But the epidermis has no blood supply of their own. They only rely on diffusion of nutrients through the capillary loops. Diba, you saw in the indentation of your dermal papillae, there were capillary loops in the area, but they don't pierce through towards the epidermis because the epidermis is avascular. It doesn't have its own blood supply. It relies on the blood reservoir present in the dermis. Okay? And then it supplies 8 to 10% of the total blood flow. So a lot of our blood supply will go to the skin. And then cutaneous receptors, we will have a separate discussion later for this one. We have a lot of nerve endings. We also have the corpuscles that are capable of detecting different types of sensation. So it's also a form of protection because if the body cannot detect any sensation, it won't be able to react accordingly. Now, if you weren't able to feel the pain, weren't able to feel the pressure or the temperature, then the body might not withdraw the hand away from the stimulus. So sensation itself is also a form of protection. Okay. Then excretion and absorption. So most of our excretion happened through sweating. Okay, 400 to 600 ml of water is lost through the skin daily because of our sweat glands. Okay, so it's very important that you sweat it out because anything that is ingested by the body, it has to be excreted either through the sweat, through your urine, or through the feces. So the sweat contributes to that by removing carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide, salts, ammonia, and urea. So if you have an excess of these toxic substances, that's why sometimes um, the quality of the sweat also differs. So there's a condition that we call your cystic fibrosis. Are you familiar with that? Cystic fibrosis. Ano siya sa movie na ito, six something something apart. So cystic fibrosis is actually a pulmonary condition, but it also affects our sweat glands. So it produces or it excretes a lot of salt. So the sweat of people with cystic fibrosis is very, very salty. Okay, o tilaway good na inyong sweat next time. It's slightly salty, but it shouldn't be salty like the sea. So if you have no a problem with the sweat glands with excretion, then that might tell you that something is wrong. There might be an underlying condition. Okay, so it's not really advisable to drink in your sweat because you're excreting substances that the body wants to remove. So the same with the urine, you're not supposed to ingest that because it's like drinking something na nilabas mo na kasi toxic siya. Pero gibalik din mo sa sulod. Okay, so toxic substances are removed through the sweat. Okay, and then absorption, you can also lather different substances onto the skin to allow it to absorb. So the skincare products that you use. So not all of them are absorbable. Some of them are not really effective because the moment you wash your face, it also gets washed off. So you have to be evidence based when you are choosing your skincare products. Okay. Because the skin is selectively permeable, meaning the layer, the covering of the skin only allows specific molecules to enter. Those that are very small or fat soluble. So if the substances are too large for the skin to absorb, it will not be absorbed. Okay. Lastly, your vitamin D synthesis. So again, we do not get vitamin D from the sun. Okay, the ultraviolet rays from the sun will help activate a molecule that is present in the skin, but it's not vitamin D yet. Okay, so you just have a precursor molecule that is present in the skin, and once it gets exposed to the ultraviolet rays from the sun, it gets maging bale sa ba mag-transform siya into another molecule that will be used by the liver and the kidneys to form the activated form of vitamin D. Kumbaga, the skin already has the deactivated form, a type of vitamin D form that we cannot use yet. So we need the sun to activate that because that activated form will be used by the liver and the kidneys to form the final vitamin D that the body actually can use. So the activated form of vitamin D that the body will use is called your calcitriol. Okay? So, it's a process and part of the process ang sun exposure to activate that precursor molecule. And by the time it circulates in the body, it reaches the liver and the kidneys, it is activated further to form your calcitriol. Do we understand this? Para when somebody asks you, no, is this true? Do we get vitamin D from the sun? So that's the most common misconception. Okay. So the calcitriol is necessary because it helps for calcium absorption. So something in the skin, when it gets activated by the sun or the ultraviolet rays, will eventually help the digestive system absorb calcium. Okay, that's why for patients with calcium supplements, we also advise them to go out into the sun, especially in the early morning. So because of uh, global warming issues like that, we we should advise the patient to go out, to have that activated precursor in the early mornings na, no, not beyond 7 a.m. na nga daw because the UV rays become more harmful the later the day is. Okay? So necessary ang ang vitamin D for calcium absorption. So if the patient takes a lot of milk because they need the calcium but they do not go out into the sun, it becomes useless. Okay, itatae mo lang yung calcium na yan because you cannot absorb it unless you have that activated form of calcitriol. Okay, so a lot of patients no, are complaining how come no, the supplements are not helping. I take a lot of milk, I drink a lot of calcium supplements, but they're not getting any sun. Now, they're not getting that precursor molecule activated in order to get the calcitriol, which is needed for calcium absorption. Okay, so get some sun in the early morning para hindi magka-skin cancer. Do we understand? So we had thermoregulation, no, shivering, your erector pili contraction, blood vessel, vasodilation or vasoconstriction, and sweating. You have protection, you have the blood reservoir, sensation, you have excretion absorption, and you have vitamin D synthesis. So the skin does a lot. That's why you have to take care of it because once it's broken, you lose all of those functions. Okay. So how many layers do we have of the skin? How many layers? Okay. What about the others? Yan. Three daw. Wala'y mag-contest? Three talaga? Okay. Three sila lahat. Ayan. Sige. Actually, no, in most reference books, um, mm, they only consider two layers because the subcutaneous layer or the hypodermis is already a connective tissue type. Okay, it's the adipose connective tissue. So there are books that still consider the hypodermis as part of it, but most of the books now will tell you na two layers lang siya, epidermis and the dermis. The hypodermis again is the adipose connective tissue under the dermis. Okay, so epidermis and the dermis. And then the epidermis, so you saw this one in the laboratory, it has five layers. Okay, especially in areas with thick skin. You have um, they have the mnemonics for this. Yung mnemonics namin dito is come, let's grab some beer. So CLGSB. Corneum from outer to inner. Corneum lucidum, granulosum, spinosum, and basale. Okay, so five layers. So it's the most superficial and the thinner portion of the skin. The dermis is much thicker. And if they have to ask you, or in the board exam, they will ask you, the epithelial tissue that is present here is keratinized, stratified squamous epithelium. Okay, where are you now in your fish show? Did you cover the cells and the tissues yet? Hello? Not yet? Okay, where are you in your fish show? Para alam ko yung pace niyo. Anyway, epithelial tissue or an epithelial cell are cells that you can find as the lining or covering of most of our structures in the body. So the skin is considered as a covering, so it will be made up of epithelial tissue. Okay, and the specific epithelial tissue here is your keratinized, stratified squamous epithelium. Keratinized mean it contains keratin, which is a protein that helps to strengthen that layer. Stratified means multiple layers siya. Okay, if you only have one layer, we call that simple. Pag stratified, it means it has multiple layers. Okay? Squamous means the shape of the cell is flat. So if we look at the picture again, but most of the cells here are flat. So flat shaped cells. That's why it's flat and it has multiple layers. That's why it's stratified squamous epithelium. Do we understand? Gets yon? Ah, okay. So keratinized because it contains keratin, stratified because it has multiple layers, squamous because the cells are flat. Okay? Kapag cuboidal kasi sila, it's a cuboid meaning it's square or box shaped. If it's columnar, it looks like a column. So they are flat. That's why we call this squamous epithelium. Okay? So you can appreciate that in your fissure when you look into the microscope. Okay? And in the layer of the dermis, you can find different types of cells contributing to its structure. You have the keratinocytes. So keratin, they will be the ones to produce your keratin. Melanocytes, so melanin, your melanocytes will produce the pigment contributing to the color of your skin. Intraepidermal macrophages, so this is the one that we discussed for protection against infection. And tactile epithelial cells. So when you say tactile, that is referring to sensation. Okay? So your keratinocytes are the most numerous. Sila ang pinakamarami na epidermal cells present. Okay? Because all of its layers will contain keratin. So you have to have a lot of keratinocytes. Okay? It produces the keratin, which is a fibrous protein that will keep the skin strong to protect against any injury. So abrasions, heat, microbes, chemicals. The keratinocytes will also produce your lamellar granules. These granules have secretions that will help with our water repellent properties. So there's a layer in our epidermis with a lot of lamellar granules. So that layer functions for water repellent. So it helps to prevent excessive absorption and loss of water. So it helps to prevent dehydration. Okay? Because it has water repellent sealant properties. It seals the water inside so they do not evaporate unnecessarily. Okay? They also prevent watery substances from entering, especially if they come with very large molecules. Do we understand? Keratinocytes, keratin, and water repelling granules. Most numerous or pinakamarami. Understand ito. Okay, na nasa name, keratinocytes, keratin. Then you have your melanocytes. So the melanocytes, so it's in the name melanin, melanocytes. So 8%. Okay, the melanin here will help produce your skin color. Therefore, it also helps to protect against UV light or UV radiation. The more melanin you have, the more protected you are. Okay, that's the melanocytes. Macrophages, your intraepidermal macrophages are also called your Langerhans cells. So the Langerhans cells are cells that come from the bone marrow that eventually migrated to the skin. So all of the macrophages actually do not come from the area that you can find them. They are all from the bone marrow, tapos nag-travel lang sila, and then nag-live na sila in a different area. So each of the macrophages in different systems actually have a different name. So the macrophages in the liver also have their own name. The macrophages in the lungs, they also have their own name. You also have a macrophage in the brain. So for the macrophage in the skin, we call it the Langerhans cells. Okay. So pag macrophage, it's a white blood cell. It helps protect. So it performs immune responses. Okay. And again, when it comes in contact with a bacteria or a virus, it will help send the signal to other white blood cells so that they can recognize which cell they will have to attack when they arrive in the area. Okay, so for cell recognition din siya so that the other immune cells will not attack your normal cells. Okay. Lastly, you have your tactile epithelial cells. We also call this your Merkel cells. Okay, Merkel cells. So these are for touch. The epidermis is capable of detecting touch. The other sensation, now those are sensory receptors that are now present in the dermis. So in the epidermis, you can only detect touch through the Merkel cells. Okay? These are the least numerous, pinakakonte. Pinakamarami, keratinocyte. Pinakakonte ang Merkel cells. Okay? So they are actually cells that come in contact with a sensory neuron, and the sensory neuron is called your tactile disc or your Merkel disc. So the cell is the Merkel cell or the tactile cell. The sensory neuron that it attaches to is the tactile disc or the Merkel disc. Okay? It can only detect touch. Do you understand? Nagets yun? Okay. So keratinocytes for keratin and water-repelling granules, most numerous. Melanocytes for melanin, skin color, and our protection from UV rays. Intraepidermal macrophage is the Langerhans cells. It's for immune response and cell recognition. Your Merkel disc or tactile Merkel cell and the tactile cell will come in contact with the sensory neuron, the tactile disc or the Merkel disc. It will help detect touch. Okay? Do we get it? You remember those, ha? So, the epidermis, again, it's 5 layers. But some parts of the body only have 4 layers. Okay, that's why we classify the skin, no, the epidermal layer, as thick skin or thin skin. So, thick if it contains all 5 layers, then we call it thin skin if it only contains 4 layers. So in areas with 4 layers, the one that disappears is your stratum lucidum. Okay? This one, the white one. So if you have no, if the area has thick skin, meaning they have all 5 layers, that means that part of the body is most likely to come in contact with um, greater friction. So just like your hands, because you're always not touching different objects, and the feet, which are always in contact with the floor or rough surfaces when we are walking or ambulating. So areas with greater exposure to friction will have thicker skin. Okay, kaya nga nagkakakalyo din yan sila, di ba? They develop callus because they're always in contact with friction. So it has to have thicker skin for protection. Areas that are not really exposed to a lot of friction will have thinner skin, and the layer that disappears is again stratum lucidum. Do we understand? Gets yun ha? Stratum lucidum. Thick skin, all 5 layers are present. So these can be found in the palms of the hand, the fingertips, and the plantar aspect of the foot or the sole because they come in contact with greater friction. Okay, always in contact with friction. Thinner skin, 4 layers lang because they don't really need more protection because they don't come in contact with or they are not in greater exposure to friction. So 4 layers, the layer that disappears or is not fully developed is the stratum lucidum. Okay. So let's go to each of the layer. What are their characteristics? So basale is also known germinativum. Okay. So just remember that if there are layers to a structure, the basal layer is always the layer that is capable of cell division. Okay. So your stratum basale, it's the innermost layer. It's capable of cell division. So it produces new keratinocytes, new layers of the squamous epithelium to replace the cells that are dying on the outer layers. Okay. So this is actually the layer that is not flat. So it's more cuboidal. Some of them will appear columnar, and then they are capable of cell division. Okay? So cuboidal or columnar keratinocytes that is continuously dividing in order to replace the dead skin cells above. Okay? So they also have your intermediate filaments to help protect the layer. Okay, so basale, cell division. Other name is germinativum. So germinal layer. Germinal layers or mga matrix layers are all for cell division. Okay, so this one is cuboidal or some of them appear columnar. The next layer, it's thicker. It's 8 to 10 layers. This is your stratum spinosum. So it's called spinosum because the cells here contain spines. Okay, that's why they appear thorn-like daw or thorny. So spiny because of the thorn-like spines present in the cells here. So it's 8 to 10 layers. As you can see here, this is the basale. It's cuboidal, one layer lang. Kaya siya simple cuboidal. Then the spinosum has thicker siya because it has 8 to 10 layers of flattened cells. So it's thorny. So you can see small lines here. So thorn-like spines, kaya siya spinosum. Okay, so spine, thorns, spiny, spinosum. This one will allow better strength and flexibility. And this is also the layer that you will find your macrophages and your melanocytes. Okay. Again, in the spinosum, this is the layer that you will find most of your macrophages or your Langerhans cells and the melanocytes. Do we get it? Basale for cell division. Simple cuboidal or columnar. One layer lang. Spinosum, it's called spinosum because it's spiny, it's thorny because of the structure of the cell. This is also where we will find the macrophages and the melanocytes. Okay? Dito sila nahahanap. Granulosum naman, it's here, as you can see. No? The granulosum, it's called granulosum because it has a lot of granules. So do you remember the lamellar granules earlier produced by the keratinocyte? Diba? They are for the water repellent sealant properties. They seal the water so that it doesn't evaporate or it doesn't dehydrate the skin. So the granules are found in this layer. That's why we call it granulosome. Okay? So this is also the layer wherein the keratinocytes start to undergo apoptosis. Apoptosis is programmed cell death, meaning the cells will start to die. Okay? They start to die. They lose their cellular functions. So namamatay sila, they start to die in this layer. Programmed cell death siya. Meaning the body decides that hanggang dyan lang yung lifestyle ng cell mo. Do we get it? Okay. So it's called your granulosome because you have granules. Okay. The granules here produce keratohyalin, which is something that we need to produce more keratin. Okay, darkly staining, so you will see dark spots in the area. Those are the lamellar granules. Okay, the lamellar granules. So they are rich in oil or cholesterol or fat. And diba, water and fat don't mix. That's why it's capable of its water repellent sealant properties. So this is the layer that will help us prevent dehydration. Do we get it? So what you need to remember in granulosome is the apoptosis. This is the layer where the cells start to die, and granules. Granules that are capable of water repellent properties. They help prevent dehydration. Okay? Basale for cell division, spinosum for your macrophages and melanocytes, granulosum for the lamellar granules that are capable of the water repellent sealant properties. Okay? So at the level of the granulosum, they already started to die. So by the time it reaches when the cells go up and into the stratum lucidum, they are already dead. Okay, patay na ang cells here. So technically, in your stratum lucidum and stratum corneum, all of the skin cells here are already dead. Okay, these are dead keratinocytes. So it's called lucidum because the layer is clear. That's why the color here is white. Okay, it's very clear. That's why lucidum siya, meaning it's the clear layer. Okay, so you have large amounts of keratin here, and it provides for additional toughness. That's why you have the lucidum in thick skin, because these areas with thick skin will come into, will have greater exposure to friction. So it has to be more protected. So that's why thicker ang lucidum in areas with a lot of friction. Okay, do we get it? So what you need to remember sa lucidum, it's the clear layer. It's already dead keratinocytes, and it's thicker in areas that come in contact with a lot of friction. Okay, because this layer provides additional strength and toughness. And lastly, the most superficial layer, it's also the thickest layer. It has 25 to 30. For those that do not exfoliate, usually it reaches up to 50 layers. Okay, so 25 to 30 layers of dead keratinocytes. So this is why we exfoliate. You want to remove the superficial layers of dead skin so that they can be replaced by the cells that are moving up as your basale continues to do cell division. Okay? So patay na yan sila lahat. This is the final product of your cell differentiation. So sometimes when the corneum becomes too thick, they appear no, dry and scaly. That's why some people appear to have scales on the skin because dead na sila eh. No, you just have to shed. You're shedding. You're continuously shedding the skin. Okay, and then replaced by cells from the deeper layers. Okay, what you need to remember here, 25 to 30 dead keratinocytes. Okay, so most superficial layer that should be shed so that it can be replaced by underlying cells. Yeah, so the shedding is normal, but there is a proper timing to it. So once the dead skin cells accumulate, now the accumulation of keratin is called keratinization or keratinization. Diba keratin is produced by the keratinocytes. The more keratin, then the thicker the skin becomes. So, an accumulation of keratin that is not shed or washed off, especially on the scalp, it develops into the scales. So, the scales that you can find here at the scalp are your dandruff. So, that's an example of keratinization wherein the accumulation has caused scaly appearance. Okay? So dapat it should be shed or magsislough off lang siya so that it can be replaced by new cells. So if it does not get shed or removed, then it will accumulate. You will get your dandruff. Okay. So here it appears like that. So it just have to be sloughed off or removed so it does not accumulate because keratinization is normal. Ang hindi normal, yung hindi siya natatanggal because of poor hygiene. Okay. A pathologic condition regarding our keratinization and cell turnover is psoriasis. Okay, psoriasis is a chronic skin condition wherein the keratinocytes will mas mabilis. The cell division, the cell turnover here is too fast that they tend to produce immature keratin and they tend to shed prematurely. So sobrang bilis ng cell turnover nila. In 7 to 10 days, tapos na yung cell division, it starts to shed. You're not supposed to shed that frequently. Okay, so premature shedding, abnormal ang keratin. So instead of appearing like normal skin, the shed skin will appear like flaky, silvery scales. Have you seen the scales of a fish? The scales of a fish, no, when they clean up the fish, parang ganyan siya, no, silvery scales. So it looks, it's not infectious, but it is painful for the patient because when they scratch this, it will bleed. Okay? Yun yung pangit sa kanila. When you scratch the scales of your psoriatic skin, it bleeds. Therefore, there is an opening. No, it tends to get infected. Okay? So pag silvery scales because of premature shedding, that's characteristic of psoriasis. Okay? So it's very common in areas of the elbows, at the back of the elbows, at the knees, and extensor surfaces. Okay? So posterior surface of your forearm or the lower legs. It can also appear on the margins of your scalp. Now, here's a hairline. That's why they also have very thick dandruff because of the premature shedding. The cell division is too fast. It tends to be immature. Do we get it? So we don't really treat the psoriasis, but we do have patients with psoriatic arthritis. So there's a form of arthritis that no, that go to PT. They also have psoriasis of the skin. So when you go to your second semester, we have what we call our ultraviolet radiation. There's a therapeutic type of machine that we use to produce good UV rays so that we can dry out the scales and help it heal faster. Okay, so that's just part of the presentation that your psoriatic arthritis patient might have. Okay, so again, it's not infectious, but we have to be careful because it's very easily natatanggal and it bleeds. Okay, so this is a microscopic view of the epidermis. So again, the clear layer here is the lucidum. So dapat ay, hindi siya. Na-stain siya. Okay, this is a stained slide. So this is the thicker upper layer, corneum, lucidum. The darker, granulosum. The 8 to 10 layers of your spinosum. And then you have the basale here. Under the basale, you already have the papillary layer of your dermis. So this one is already showing you the dermis because you can already see the hair piercing through it and the sebaceous glands here. Okay, so the basale is the innermost layer. Below that, you already have the papillary layer of your dermis. Okay, so the dermis is much simpler. It only has two layers, your papillary layer and the deeper reticular layer. Okay. So the dermis is made up of connective tissue. So connective tissues, diba? Epithelial tissues are coverings, diba? Outer covering. Your connective tissues are connective because it keeps multiple layers of structures connected or together. Okay, so the connective tissue will connect the epidermis to the hypodermis, and the hypodermis will connect the skin to the muscle below. So, connective tissue. So, you have dense, irregular connective tissue. Dense kasi compact siya. You have so many cells here. Irregular because the direction of the fibers here are not in the same direction. It's disorganized, but it allows for the skin to stretch and recoil. So, di ba, when you pick up the skin like this, you pinch it up. When you release, it goes back to its original placement. So, it doesn't stay na nakapinch up because it's elastic. Okay, that's because of the dermis. The dermis gives you that flexibility and elasticity. Okay, so when you lose the flexibility or elasticity of the skin, then there's something wrong. Okay, so again, dense, irregular connective tissue. It has a lot of collagen and elastic fibers. Stretch and recoil, so elasticity, and two layers. Okay, so you can see a lot of structures here depending on kung papillary or reticular. In the papillary region, the specific type of connective tissue that you can find here is areolar connective tissue. Okay, areolar connective tissue. in the papillary layer, you know that you are in the papillary layer. No, upper lang siya, here lang siya. You can see here your dermal papillae, the capillary loops in that area, di ba? Andito yung capillary loops, the Meissner's corpuscles, and the free nerve endings. Okay, so if you are in the area of the papillary region, these are the things that you will see in that area. The dermal papillae, the capillary loops under the papillae, the Meissner's corpuscles, and the free nerve endings. Do we get it? So you already saw all of these things in the model. Your reticular layer naman is the deeper and thicker layer. So it takes up 80% of the dermis. So here you have the dense irregular. It's highly uh, consisting of collagen fibers. You still have a few elastic, but most of them are collagen. Okay. So in the reticular layer, you will find all of the glands, some of the sensory receptors, the hair follicle, and the blood vessels. Okay, so deeper into the dermis in the reticular layer, you have the glands, the hair follicle, the other sensory receptors, and your blood vessels. Okay? Do we get it? Nakita niyo na ito lahat sa models. Hopefully, ma-remember. Okay? So we have what we call our epidermal ridges. So if you look at your fingertips right now, diba, we use that for fingerprint detection. Or the NBI usually uses this to identify people when they cannot, no, in cases of forensics, if they can no longer recognize the people by their face, they usually go for the fingerprints or the dental records. So your epidermal ridges, no, they are loops and whorls that you will see on your fingertips or in the palmar surface of the hand. They are because of the epidermal diba? Sorry. Let's go to the picture ha. This is your this is your dermal papillae. Okay? So the dermal papillae will go up. So the part of the epidermis that goes down, that's your epidermal ridge. Okay, so paakyat, na going up, si dermal papillae. So the part of the epidermis that goes down, that's your epidermal ridge. So it forms a pattern, and that pattern is responsible for your fingerprints. Okay, so the fingerprints are necessary not just for identification, but this irregularity in the pattern also helps with your gripping. Okay, the grip. But we use the hands for holding objects. We have different types of grips. So once you, when there's damage to this area and you lose your fingerprint, so some of them burn them off. So pag ganyan, you lose the ability to grip because it becomes smooth. So it will be harder to grip objects if you lose the epidermal ridges. Okay? So it provides for strong attachment between the epidermis and the dermis. Kasi nagmi-meet kasi yung dermal papillae and epidermal ridges. Okay? Do we get it? The irregular pattern contributes to your fingerprints. And the fingerprints also help with improving your grip. They're also capable of making the hands and the palms more sensitive to touch. Okay, kasi andyan yung free nerve endings at this level. Okay? So just clinical correlation. When there is injury to the skin, no, it forms scars. The scars that you know of are the ones that are superficial. But when the skin becomes too stretched, the insides are damaged. So there's really no opening on the skin, but the stretching inside will still be damage to the skin layers. So the stretch lines, or this is called your striae, okay, striae. So this is actually a result of scarring that is occurring in the deeper layers. Okay, yung scar kasi na nakikita natin superficially are different. No, they form outside. The stretch lines are because of scarring that form inside. due to overstretching. Okay, so most of the time it's normal, especially for those who gain a lot of weight and then nagkaka-weight loss later on. The stretching already happened, the scarring already happened, so the stretch lines remain. Okay. You can also have pathologic stretch lines, meaning abnormal sila. You can see this in patients with Cushing syndrome. Okay, so your Cushing syndrome is a hormonal imbalance. So it causes the appearance of purple striae. So normally, this is a normal stretch line. It's not really because of a pathology. It's just overstretching of the skin. They appear clear or atrophic, di ba? White ang stretch lines. But in your Cushing syndrome, this is not normal because they appear purple or red violet yung color nila. So this is because of a hormonal problem leading to obesity. So there is stretching, there is bleeding inside that scarred area. Okay. So that's an example of an abnormal stretch line. Do we get it? Any questions so far? Wala? Sige. Let me continue to the skin color. Okay, so again, we learned that what was the pigment that contribute to the color of the skin? Pigment. What was it that contributes to the color of the skin? Your melanin. What produces the melanin? What produces the melanin? Yes, your melanocytes. Okay? So, we have different types of melanin kasi. Okay? That's why we also have different types of hair color, skin color, and eye color. Okay? But generally, these melanin pigments will help to protect against UV rays. So there is an increased production the more you are exposed to sunlight. So we have two types of melanin in the body, your pheomelanin and your eumelanin. So the pheomelanin is responsible for the blondes and the redheads. Okay, yellow pigment or red pigment. That's your pheomelanin. Okay, so most of the Westerners will have yellowish to reddish color because of the pheomelanin. The eumelanin, so this is what is abundant in Asian genetics. We have brown to black pigment. So that's the eumelanin. Okay, do we get it? Pheomelanin for yellow to red, eumelanin for the brown to black. So generally, the number of melanocytes in the body are the same now regardless of race or ethnicity. It's the pigment that matters. So those that are whiter in complexion is not because they have less melanocytes, it's because they have less melanin. Okay, so if you are not in an area that is or in a lifestyle that has you outside more often, then you would expect to have more melanin. That's why you will be darker in terms of skin color. Okay, so it's not because of the melanocytes, it's because of the amount of melanin that is present. Okay. In some areas, they accumulate in pinpoint areas. So that's why people or some people have what we call your freckles. Or they might accumulate more in just one specific area, then that's your moles. Or imuhang mga nevus, nevi, or alum, kumbaga. Okay? So that's just an accumulation of melanin when you have pigmentation in an area. When it's a mole na nagatubo, it's because nagagrow siya because of the cells in the skin. No, your keratinocytes just kept growing. Okay, do we get it? Okay, pheomelanin, yellow to red. Eumelanin for brown to black. Okay, some patients tend to turn yellow. So this is not the olive skin tone, ha? Yellow in terms of when you're looking at the palms of their hands or the soles of their foot. So another pigment that you can get from your diet is your carotene. Okay, but you can hear that in ads, beta carotene, rich in carotene. So these are produced that you can get and you can eat. So dietary ito siya. When you eat a lot of vegetables that contain a lot of carotene or vitamin A, then you might turn yellow. Okay, the condition wherein we turn yellow, we call that your carotenemia. Carotenemia. Okay, meaning you have an excess of that golden yellow pigment. They accumulate in the fat and in the palms and soles of the feet. Okay, so we need the carotene. So we need more carotene in the diet because it contributes to vitamin A synthesis. So good for the eyes because you need vitamin A for vision. Do we get it? So we have melanin and then we have carotene. Next, we have your hemoglobin. So hemoglobin, again, it's in the blood. Hemo, so that's heme. Heme means blood. Globin is a globule, so it's circular. So hemoglobin carries the oxygen in the blood. Okay, so the more hemoglobin, the more oxygen, the redder it will be. So we have two types of hemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin, so oxy for oxygen. This is the hemoglobin that contains oxygen. So it will give you a bright red color. Okay. So when there is an increase in blood supply to the area, no, you turn, di ba, mag-vasodilate, mag-increase ang blood flow, you turn pink or you turn red, you blush. Now, there is skin flushing because there is an increase in oxyhemoglobin in the area. But if there is decrease in blood flow because the blood vessel vasoconstricted, there will be pallor or paleness. Magiging pale siya because the oxyhemoglobin doesn't arrive in the area. So the red pigment is not present. Therefore, the skin will appear pale. Do we get it? So pallor is different from the bluish discoloration or cyanosis. Okay. The other type of hemoglobin is deoxyhemoglobin. So deoxy meaning the oxygen was already used, therefore it will no longer appear red. Your deoxyhemoglobin or the loss of the oxygen will give rise to a bluer pigment. That's why there are patients that you will see their hands or their lips turn blue. So that's because they no longer have oxygen. Okay? If you have increased amounts of deoxyhemoglobin, the extremity or that part of the body will turn blue. We call that cyanosis. Okay? Pallor is decreased blood flow, so the oxyhemoglobin doesn't arrive in the area. In cyanosis, it turns blue because you no longer have oxygen. So even though the blood flow is good, but the blood is not carrying any oxygen, then it will still turn blue. Okay, it will become cyanotic. Do we understand? Okay, very important because if the patient doesn't have blood supply, that means walang oxygen. If you exercise that, the patient will not tolerate it. Okay, when you see a patient with pale hands and feet, then that means poor blood flow to the area. When you see that extremity turning blue, the patient has decreased oxygen in the area. Okay, so here in the photo, you can see, so this is the normal appearance of the patient. An increase in blood flow to the area has caused an increase in oxyhemoglobin. That's why she turned pink or reddish. Okay, this is an example of a malar rash. You can see this in patients with lupus. So increased blood flow to the area, it turns red. Okay, so normally you can appreciate that in the palms, soles, the face, the neck, even the upper chest will blush. Okay, this is an example of cyanosis. So central cyanosis, you can see it on the lips and at the tips of your digits. Okay, this is peripheral cyanosis. This is a whole body cyanosis in a baby. So this baby probably has a heart condition. that is making it difficult to circulate oxygenated blood. Okay. So cyanosis, this is flushing, or the term is erythema. This is a normal skin color. This is carotenemia. Okay, excessive, that the yellow pigment turned the palms and the soles yellow. This is erythema. Okay. So again, this is possibly carotenemia, cyanosis. In here, is this normal? Usually, in carotenemia, you only get yellowing in the hands and feet. Okay. In cases where the eyes turn yellow, and then when you pull the eyelids down or up and ask them to open their mouth, when the mucous membrane and the sclerae are affected, that's no longer carotenemia. Okay, that's evidence of a possible liver injury. The yellow discoloration here is now called your jaundice. Okay, so that's a very good differential. Sometimes when the palms are yellow, we try to determine if this is dietary or is it a liver problem. So liver problem will turn the hands and feet yellow as well. That's why you have to look at their eyes and the inside of the mouth to determine if this is jaundice. In carotenemia kasi, only the hands and feet will turn yellow. Okay, not the eyes and not the inside of the mouth. Do we get it? Ha? Baka kasi you tell the patient, ay okay lang na ma'am, bawas-bawas lang sa squash, bawas-bawas lang sa carrot. So, baka liver problem na pala siya. Okay? What about this one? So you can see someone with very high melanin pigment, and this one, a total absence of it. So what do we call that condition? When they have no melanin at all. Yes? May nag-raise ng hand. Okay. What do we call that? Or have you seen someone like that? Merong ganyan before. I think 2 years ago, baka graduate na siya. Yes, an albino. Okay, we call this your albinism. This one, as you can see, there are areas with normal pigmentation and no patchy areas of loss of pigmentation. So this is what was wrong with Michael Jackson. That's why he tried to make it all white na lang because it looks cosmetically disturbing for some people. So this is your albinism. This one is a different condition that we call your vitiligo. Okay? So albinism again is generalized whole body. All areas with pigment will lose the pigment. No pigment, no melanin is present. Total zero. Okay. This is because of an absence of your tyrosinase enzyme. This is necessary for the production of melanin. So because they don't have the enzyme necessary for producing melanin, so puti na puti ang mga pasyente. So may joke kami nito before na all the Targaryens daw are albinos because technically even their eye color is very light, no? Medyo lavender or violet ang ilang description of their eyes. So even the eyes of the albinos kasi will lose the color. So the eye color is still melanin. So nawala na tanan, the hair, the skin, even the eye color. So the risk for these people is very high risk for skin cancer because they have no protection against UV rays. So a lot of the people with albinism, they have to dress very naka long sleeve, naka thick coat, naka cap, naka mask just to protect the skin. And panay sunblock sunscreen yan sila because they have no natural prevention of UV ray damage. Again, this is your vitiligo. There is patchy or chalk white lesions superimposed in normal skin color. This one is because of an autoimmune disease. So the own immune system starts to attack the melanocytes. So they don't it's not like the albinism, na total lack of melanin, because here you still have melanin, but the immune system keeps on attacking some of the melanocytes. That's why puntik-puntik yung kanilang pigment loss. Okay, it's not total loss, it's just in the areas where the melanocytes were attacked. Okay? So eventually this progresses. So pangit siya, that's why a lot of other people tend to try to manage it. But ano na, marami ng models actually na may vitiligo and they look so pretty. Okay, so nasa tao lang talaga if they need the cosmetic correction. Okay, and then the proper term for flushing or the red discoloration is your erythema. So it can happen with a lot of situations, most commonly sa allergic reactions. So if you're someone with a lot of allergies, di ba, mamula o galit. Could be inflammation. So this one is usually accompanied by pain and swelling. Trauma, because it's still blood flow to the area. So increased blood flow. Okay, so the proper term for no, anatomic term for increased in the reddish discoloration or pinkish discoloration is erythema. Okay, do we get it? Any questions so far? Konti na lang. Ano na lang yung accessory structures. So what was the condition where the patient has a total lack of melanin? No pigmentation whatsoever. Yes, albumin. What was the enzyme that was missing? Enzyme that was missing. Okay, tyrosinase. Okay, tyrosinase enzyme. Okay. What was the condition wherein there is autoimmune destruction of the melanocytes? Autoimmune destruction. Okay, that's vitiligo. What is the pigment responsible for the golden yellow color? Golden yellow color. Okay, carotene. So what is the pathologic condition wherein you have yellow discoloration because of a liver problem? Okay, that's jaundice. Okay, carotene is necessary for what? What vitamin does it synthesize? Vitamin A, okay, for the eyes or vision. What pigment will turn the extremity blue? Dark blue pigment. Dark blue pigment. It gives rise to cyanosis. Yes, that's your deoxyhemoglobin. What happens when you have oxygen but have no blood flow? There is oxygen, but there is no blood flow to the area. What happens to the color? Yes, that's your pallor. Okay. What do we call the pink or reddish discoloration because of the presence of oxyhemoglobin? The pink or reddish pigment uh, color because of the oxyhemoglobin. What do we call that? Flushing. Okay, the flushing is erythema. Okay, what is the melanin responsible for the brown black color of the hair? Brown black color. Brown black color. That's your eumelanin. Okay, the blondes and the redheads, they have an abundance of what type of melanin? Okay, that's your pheomelanin. Okay, give me the layer of the skin. I will give you the characteristic, give me the layer. Okay, this is the layer of the skin for water repellent, sealant properties. For water repelling. Which layer? Okay, that's your granulosome. So this is a layer that is present in thick skin but absent in thin skin. Present in thick but absent in thin. Okay, the lucidum. This is the thickest layer of dead keratinocytes. The thickest layer of dead keratinocytes. Okay, it's 25 to 30 layers, diba? That's your corneum. Okay, this is for cell division. Cell division. Okay, basale. What is the other name for the basale? Other name of basale. Okay, your germinative womb. This is the layer where you can find your macrophages and your melanocytes. The layer where you can find the macrophages and the melanocytes. Okay, your spinosum. Between the two layers of the dermis, epidermis and, sorry, papillary and reticular. Where can we find our hair follicles? Hair follicles. Where can you find the hair follicles? Okay, reticular. Where can we find our Meissner's corpuscles? Meissner's corpuscles. Papillary. Free nerve endings. Papillary. Okay, what about the Pacinian corpuscles? Pacinian corpuscles, reticular. Blood vessels are also found in the reticular. Oh, which one is responsible for your fingerprints to allow for better grip? Fingerprints for better grip. That's your epidermal ridges. Okay, very good. Okay. Last part, we have the accessory structures. So first one is your hair. So the hair, it's present all over the body except on the palms and soles of your feet. So you check right now kung nanay buhok, abnormal ka. Okay? So hair is present in most skin surfaces except on the palms or palmar surface of the hand and fingers and the soles of the foot. Okay? So they offer a limited protection, so especially over the scalp to protect the skin on the scalp. You have the hair there. The eyebrows will no, and the eyelashes will prevent foreign substances from entering the eyeballs. And for males, they have the mustache. Okay. Then your hair is capable of sensing light touch because of the free nerve endings that it has. Okay, so this is the layer of the hair that you identified in our models. So we divide the hair into two parts, the outer shaft and the inner root. And the root is further divided into the medulla, the cortex, and the cuticle. Okay, so in the hair root, so the medulla here, it contains most of our pigment granules. And then your cortex, which is the major part of your shaft, and the cuticle, which contains a lot of your keratinized cells. So the cuticle is the white part. Okay, it has a lot of keratinized cells. That's why we know ang mga hair products they promote keratin because they help keep the hair strong. Because technically the hair is also dead keratinocytes. So to maintain its no lustrous shine, ganan, keratin is needed. Okay, so medulla, innermost, cortex has majority of the part of the shaft and the highly keratinized cuticle. Then you have the outer coverings of the root. You have the external root sheath. So from inner to outer, this is the medulla, cortex, the cuticle, and then the internal root sheath and the external root sheath. So together, they are called your epithelial root sheath. So both of them are just extensions of our epidermis. Okay, it pushes inwards kasi. So there's a part of the epidermis that extends to the epithelial root sheath. Okay, and then the outermost is the dermal root sheath, which is a continuation of the dermis. Okay, or comes in contact with the dermal layer. Okay, this is the hair bulb, which is the onion-shaped inner part or deeper part. You have the papilla, no, the nipple-shaped structure here where the capillary root will enter so that it can nourish our inner part of the hair root. You have the germinal layer or the hair matrix. So the hair matrix is equivalent to our stratum basale. So basta basal layer or germinal layer, what is the function? So the hair matrix will function for your cell division. Okay, so this is where the cells divide. That's why your hair keeps growing longer. So So in cases of your hair removal, but when you shave an area or when you shave an area, it grows quickly. No? Mutubo lang gyapon siya dayon. So it grows quickly after that because you're not really stopping the hair growth because when you shave, you only cut off the external part of the hair shaft. You're not really affecting the hair matrix. When you do, what do you call that? Magpa-wax. So in waxing, it grows slightly slower compared to shaving because when you remove from the root, no, you are removing from the root talaga. So not just the superficial part that exited the skin. So it grows slower, but it still grows because the hair matrix is still intact. But in cases of laser removal, di ba, they claim that it stops hair growth totally. So that is only if they really target the hair matrix. Because if you kill the cells in the hair matrix, then there will be no more cells for cell division. Okay. So we have three types of hair. We have the lanugo, the terminal hair, and the vellus hair. So the lanugo is only found in newborns or in infants. So if you've seen a newborn or a very young baby, they have very thin, downy hair at the back or in other parts of their body that will eventually recede. So this is very fine, non-pigmented, downy hair. So when you see the words downy hair in a baby, that's a lanugo. So very thick pa yan siya inside the mother's womb. And then eventually it just disappears once the baby grows up. Okay, lanugo. Downy hair that covers the newborn or the fetus. Terminal hair is coarse, dark, and thick. So these are the types of hair that you will see on the scalp, on the eyebrows, on the eyelashes, on the beard, and the pubic area. So thick and dark na hair. Okay, so that's terminal hair. Your vellus hair are hair that you can find in other parts of the body na very manipis. Okay, especially for the females. So if you've seen in TikTok, naga shave sila even though they don't have the beard, but they no shave the finely distributed vellus hair in the area. Sometimes it's here or on the back. So they're not thick, they're not dark, they're very fine and pale. So that's your vellus hair. Okay, terminal hair are the types of hair that you can see in areas that normally have hair, now very thick and very dark. Your vellus hair, those are the finer types of hair, and sometimes you have to flashlight pa just to see the hair on that area. So we call this your peach fuzz. So the peach fuzz is your vellus hair. Okay, finer hair that you can find in other parts of the body. So yun lang yung clue words ninyo. Pag downy hair in a baby, that's lanugo. Pag coarse, dark, no, or heavily pigmented in areas that you would expect hair to be, that's your terminal hair. Then finer, softer, paler hair or your peach fuzz, that's your vellus hair. Do we understand? Nagets yon? So hair that are thick and dark, no, in areas that you would expect them to be, that's terminal hair. Vellus hair, those are the types of hair that are barely visible. So that's your peach fuzz or your vellus hair. Okay. So there are pathologic types of hair growth. So particularly in females and prepubescent males, meaning hindi pa nag puberty, you have an excess growth of terminal hair. Okay, so this is very evident in females, especially those with PCOS or your polycystic ovarian syndrome. So they develop hirsutism, meaning an increase in the testosterone will lead to an increase of the growth of your terminal hair. So PCOS patients usually develop, no, females, no, they develop a mustache here or they develop their um, bearded areas here. Okay, they start to grow because of the increase in testosterone. So this is your hirsutism, terminal hair. Okay, We also have this one kasi, which is your hypertrichosis. This is an excess or an excessive hair growth in areas that you would not expect terminal hair to be. So dapat vellus hair lang yung andyan, pero excessive yung hair growth, that's hypertrichosis. Okay? It can be generalized or localized. So usually secondary to either the genetics or your medications. Okay? So this is hypertrichosis. Hirsutism is terminal hair specifically. Hypertrichosis is growth of hair anywhere in the body, no, in areas that you do not expect not to have this much of hair. Okay? So if you've seen no, the Umbrella Academy, di ba, si number one, hypertrichosis yung sa kanya. Okay? Excessive hair growth. If there is a lack of hair growth, walang hair or nawawalan ng hair, that's your alopecia. Okay? So common in males that enter their middle ages, so they have androgenic alopecia, which is secondary to their hormones. So that's why we have what we call your male pattern baldness. A loss of hair is alopecia. Parts of the body that normally does not have hair, that's your glabrous skin. Okay, parts of the body that has no hair at all and no normal siya, normally does not have hair, that's glabrous skin. Okay, do we get it? So females or prepubescent with excessive terminal hair, that's hirsutism. No, hair growth in anywhere in the body, that's your hypertrichosis. Loss of hair, alopecia, so it can be caused by a lot of things. And parts of the skin with that has no, normally has no hair, that's glabrous skin. Our hair color, if it's not no, salon based, it's usually because of our melanin. Okay, melanin pa din. Do we get it? So that's our hair. Lanugo, terminal, and vellus hair. Okay. Next, we have our glands. So we have two types of skin glands. The one that produces the oil, which is your oil gland or sebaceous gland, and our sweat glands or the sudoriferous glands later. So your sebaceous glands will produce oil or sebum. Okay? They are present in most parts of the body except the palms and soles. So when you have wet hands and feet, it's not because of oil glands, it's because of the sweat glands. Okay, you do not have oil in the hands and feet. So very large on the face. That's why the face tends to have a lot of acne. They also have a lot of them on the underside of the breasts or around the nipples, the neck, and the chest. Okay. So they secrete directly onto the surface. So they are attached close to the hair. That's why the hair can also become oily if you don't wash it too often. Okay. And other parts of the body with oil glands to help lubricate the area. Okay. Around the lips, at the glands and the labia of the female, and the tarsal glands, which are the at the area of the eyes. Okay. So sebum. The sebum is made up of cholesterol and fat. Okay, triglycerides, cholesterol, and proteins. They help keep the skin moist. It prevents evaporation, prevents dehydration. So it only becomes a problem when it accumulates or the exit of the oil glands become clogged and come in contact with bacteria. So then you will get your acne. That's why it's also not good to completely strip your face of the oil because it does help with protection because oil will trap debris, it traps your bacteria. Need lang talaga good hygiene so that you can remove them after because if it accumulates and comes in contact with microbes, that's when you get the infected acne. Okay. So again, for dehydration, that's why if you have very dry skin, the more no, the more dry or the drier it is, the more oil is produced. So it's just going to worsen the oiliness if you also have very dry skin. So you have to manage the dehydration first. Okay, so sebum to prevent evaporation. Your sweat glands are called sudoriferous glands. Okay, they produce your sweat. So it now depends on who among the two sweat glands are producing it because they produce different types of fluids. So you have two types of sweat glands, your eccrine sweat glands and your apocrine sweat glands. Okay, you already saw this in the big skin model. Your eccrine sweat glands, actually both of them, so both eccrine and apocrine are simple and coiled tubular glands. The only difference is the apocrine glands are much larger. They are still simple, coiled, and tubular, but they have larger ducts. Okay, this is the ducts. The ducts. So out of the two, the eccrine sweat glands are the most numerous ones. Mas marami ang eccrine sweat glands because you can find them everywhere. Okay, everywhere in the body. And very abundant sila in the forehead, in the palms of the hand, and the soles of the feet. So this is distinguishable from your apocrine gland because when you look at the model, your eccrine glands will deposit immediately onto the surface of the skin. So sila yung merong sweat pore. They deposit immediately onto the surface of the skin. So the ducts here, the eccrine duct will go towards the sweat pore here. Okay? Yung apocrine sweat gland kasi, it will attach to the hair and it exits through the area where the hair pokes through. Okay? It doesn't have its own opening. So the eccrine sweat glands also secretes most of the toxic products of the body. Almost 600 ml per day is lost through through the eccrine sweat glands. It contains a lot of waste products, your urea, the salt, uric acid, ammonia, lactic acid. So waste products. Okay. So this one is responsible for thermoregulatory sweating. So when you have to decrease the temperature of the body, the eccrine sweat glands are the ones that are stimulated. Okay, so that the sweat can evaporate and can cool the temperature of the skin. Okay, eccrine, um, most distributed or most numerous anywhere in the body. Okay, very prominent in the hands and feet and in the forehead. Thermoregulatory sweating. Okay, the type of sweat that they produce here is more watery, no? Usually clear sila. Okay, so when you wipe off this sweat from your arm when you exercise, di ba, wala siyang color. It's just water. Okay, with a lot of waste products. Your apocrine sweat glands naman, again, it's still simple, coiled, and tubular but has larger ducts. Mas malaki yung tubo nila. This one is prominent in the axilla, in the groin, in the bearded regions. So your apocrine sweat glands only become active, no, once you hit puberty. Your eccrine sweat glands are already present and active, no, since birth. But the apocrine sweat glands, they start to become more active in sweat production when you reach puberty. Okay, so in the axilla and in the groin or sa singit, di ba magbasa na siya dira. Even on the bearded areas of the face. So the apocrine sweat glands, in contrast, di ba, clear ang sweat ng eccrine. Ang apocrine, it produces a more milky and yellowish na color in its sweat produced because of the lipids and proteins. So medyo malapot siya, medyo milky siya, and yellowish siya. That's why when you wear a white shirt, di ba, the axillary area, when you sweat a lot here, na apocrine sweat glands ang nag-produce, it will turn yellow. Okay, so it's normal because the sweat produced by the apocrine sweat glands will really have a yellowish color because of the lipids or the cholesterol or the fats and the protein that make up that type of sweat. Okay? The problem here is that when this milky sweat comes in contact with bacteria because you have poor hygiene, this is what develops the body odor. Okay, normally both types of sweat should not smell, but the apocrine sweat gland, because of the composition of the sweat that it produces, when it comes in contact with bacteria, it produces your body odor. Okay, so body odor is because of the sweat coming from the apocrine glands coming in contact with bacteria. Okay, do we get it? So hygiene pa din yan siya. Normal lang na mag-yellow. You just have to wash it properly. So your apocrine sweat glands, it plays a bigger role in emotional sweating, meaning when you sweat because of anxiety, fear, no, emotional sweating. Your eccrine sweat glands are the only ones that act for thermoregulatory sweating. The eccrine will still sweat when you have emotional sweating, pero mas bigger ang role ni apocrine sweat glands for emotional sweating. Do we get it? Gets yon? Okay. Last one is your ceruminous gland. So cerumen is our medical term for earwax. Okay, you can only find your ceruminous glands inside the ear. So it's normal because it's a modified sweat gland. The cerumen or the earwax is necessary for protection because it helps to prevent foreign objects from entering the ear. So it protects the inner ear and the middle ear. That's why you have to clean it properly. It's no longer advised to clean it with a Q-tip because the tendency is you push the earwax further and it can become impacted like this. Okay? So it's better to spoon it out. Diba? There are, ano na yun, na spoon shape na yung kanilang pang-clean ng ear. So you can scoop it out instead of pushing it inside. Okay, cerumen or earwax produced by your ceruminous glands. Sudoriferous has eccrine and apocrine. Eccrine for thermoregulatory sweating, apocrine for more emotional sweating. And your oil glands for sebum production, just meant also for protection. Okay, so you have the nails, so easy lang si nails. You have the cuticle here or the eponychium. You have the nail plate or the nail body and the free edge, which is the part of the nail that you cut off. The moon shaped white color here is the lunula. And under the cuticle, you will find the nail root, where you can find the nail matrix for cell division. That's why the nail grows very fast. You have a nail matrix here. Okay. So it's also made up of dead keratinized epidermal cells. So it's made up of a lot of keratin protein. That's why it's hard, capable of protecting the dorsal surface of the hand. Okay. So the root here has the nail matrix. So this is the nail matrix for cell division. Eponychium or your cuticle, the lunula, nail plate. Underneath, you have the nail bed. Then you have the free edge. And under the free edge, no, the part of the skin, here is the hyponychium. Okay. Now, this is a case of nail clubbing. You will see this in patients with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or in chronic smokers. As you can see, the distal end of their digits become ballooned. No, nagadako sila. So we have what we call your Shamrot's technique. So you can do this right now. It's very easy. You just have to put your index fingers together like this, and there should be a diamond space, no, at the root of your nails. So as you can see, there is a diamond shape here, meaning normal pa ang kanilang nails. If that diamond shape disappears like this, then that means the nails are already or the digits have already started clubbing. Okay, naga-enlarge na sila. Usually accompanied by cyanosis or pallor because of no chronically poor oxygenation in the area. Okay, so this is your Shamrot's technique, no? A way to check for nail clubbing. Do you have any questions so far before I proceed to the final one, your sensory receptors? No questions? Okay, wala na ata sila. Okay, isa kayo bahala. Dapat maka-answer kayo next week. Okay, tactile sensation. Again, tactile is usually sensation. Touching. Ayan. Touch, pressure, vibration, itch, and tickle. So it depends on what sensory receptor is present, how big it is, and if it's myelinated or not. So let's go to touch first. This one, you already saw this. You have the Meissner's corpuscles, which can be found in the papillary region. So when they are described in exams or no in the board exams, they usually give you the shape. So the Meissner corpuscles look like eggs. Okay, so egg shaped. You're capable of detecting touch and low frequency vibration. Okay? Iba kasi yung nagde-detect ng high frequency vibration. So just remember egg shaped for touch and low frequency vibration. So very abundant in areas that are sensitive to touch. Fingertips, hands, in the eyelids, tip of the tongue. Ayan. Okay? Your hair root plexuses, this is the part of the nerve, free nerve ending that comes in contact with the hair follicle. That's why whenever the hair moves, the hair root plexus will detect the movement. So, no, kapag somebody touched your hair like this, it will send signals to the hair root plexuses. That's why you can feel, someone touching your hair. Okay. So detects movement on the skin that disturbs the hair. That's your hair root plexus. On the skin, that's the Meissner's corpuscles. Okay? For pressure, pressure refers to sustained sensation. So matagal siyang nalagyan ng object or structure. Okay, sustained sensation. We have two types, type 1, type 2, cutaneous mechanoreceptor. Type 1 is also known as your Merkel disc. Now, we mentioned the Merkel disc earlier, the one attached to the Merkel cell. The Merkel disc is capable of continuous touch. It detects continuous touch. Okay, so sustained or prolonged touching and pressure. Okay. Type 2 is your Ruffini corpuscles. Type 1, Merkel. Type 2, Ruffini. So Ruffini is capable of detecting stretching of the skin and pressure. So type 1 and type 2 are capable of pressure. Type 1 additionally will feel prolonged or continuous touch. Type 2 will detect stretching. For some books, actually, Ruffini corpuscles are also associated with detecting heat or warmth. Kaya siya, yung mnemonics namin here was Ruffinit kasi mainit. Kaya niya mag-detect ng heat or warmth. Okay? So the shape of your Merkel disc is saucer shaped. But have you seen a disc? Diba? Disc, disc ba sa sa DVD or disc sa imuhang sa tawag na game? Forgot the game. It's a disc. Disc looks like a saucer, di ba? Oh, so saucer shaped ang disc. Egg shaped ang Meissner's. Okay? So saucer shaped ang disc, Merkel disc. And then your vibration, the high frequency vibration is your Pacinian corpuscle or the lamellated corpuscle. So you saw this one in the model. It's very big, and if you slice it open, it looks like an onion. Okay, it has a lot of rings. So the description for the Pacinian corpuscle is onion, a sliced onion. So tatlo yung meron tayong description. Egg for the Meissner's, saucer for the disc, and sliced onion for the Pacinian. Okay, this one is for high frequency vibration. Okay, and then lastly, you have your pain, tickle, and your itch. So itch is makate. Okay, it itches. So this is because in the blood you have a lot of bradykinin and your histamine. So histamine is what accumulates in the blood when you have allergic reactions. That's why the medication is antihistamine. Okay, if you have histamine and bradykinins in the area, it causes itchiness. Okay, and then tickle, this one can only be facilitated by another person because it has to come unexpected. Diba? Gilukan ka, pero kung ikaw ang maggunit sa imong self, no, you can't tickle yourself. But if another person does it, so it's because your brain doesn't know when to expect it. Okay? So pain, itch, and tickle are all detected by free nerve endings. Okay? Free nerve endings. So itching and tickling, pati pain. They are all detected by your free nerve endings. Okay? So, actually, in the models, hindi nga masyado, hindi tama yung ano doon. The ones that are only up to the dermis, those are your type 1 and type 2. So this is your type 2, this is your raffinate. The free nerve endings go all the way to the epidermis here. While your Merkel type 1, so they look like an axon going towards the dermal papillae. This is the egg-shaped Meissner's. This is the onion-shaped Pacinian. This is the hair root plexus. Okay, so those are our sensory receptors. I will stop here. I will discuss na lang burns and pressure ulcers in the lab. Sige. So this is a table coming from your Sullivan, which is one of our top three PT books. So the additional lang here is the cold and the warmth. So like I said, the warmth was also associated with the ruffinate corpuscles. Ruffinate for mainit, ruffinis corpuscles. And then your crosses and bulbs are for cold sensation. So yung mnemonics naman namin here, or our a way to remember it, di ba si Santa Claus, he lived somewhere cold, so crosses and bulbs. Santa Claus daw. Okay, Ruffini, you add this one for warmth, crosses and bulbs for cold. So Pacinian is still vibration, free nerve endings for pain, itch, and tickle, Merkel disc for touch, Meissner's corpuscle for prolonged or sustained touch, and your low frequency vibration. Okay. Any questions so far? Sige. Last na drills. You type in the chat box. I will tell you the sensation. You tell me which sensory receptor detects it. Okay. Which one will detect stretching of the skin? Stretching of the skin. Which receptor will detect stretching of the skin? Wala. Wala na. Wala na now. Stretching. Okay, type 2, Ruffini. Okay, type 2, dalawang F. O, di ba? 2. Okay, which one will detect your low frequency vibration? Low frequency vibration. Low frequency. That's your Meissner's corpuscle. Which one will detect pressure and sustained touch or prolonged touch? Pressure and prolonged touch. That's your Merkel or your type 1. Okay, which one will detect high frequency vibration? High frequency vibration. Okay, Pacinian, or what's the other name for the Pacinian? It's your lamellated corpuscle. Which one will detect um, touch on the hair? Touch sa hair. This is when someone touches your hair, that's the hair root plexus. Okay, which one will detect pain? Pain, itching, and tickling. Pain, itching, and tickling. It's your free nerve endings. Okay. Light touch will detect light touch. Light touch on the skin. Light touch. Light touch on the skin. This is egg shaped. Okay, egg shaped. Oh, Meissner. Onion shaped. Onion shaped. Okay, Pasinian and saucer shaped. Okay, saucer shaped. Looks like a saucer. That's your Merkel. Okay, sige. So I'll give everybody an assignment. Since I have your notebooks, you write it down on your green notebooks na lang. I want everyone to draw an illustration of the stages of burn. Okay, draw and discuss the difference between the stages of burns. Okay, hanggang stage, ano yan siya? Stage 4 for our reference books. And then stages, discuss lang. No need to draw. The stages of wound healing, especially on the skin. Okay, so number 1, draw and discuss the stages of your burns. Number 2, discuss the stages of healing. And then 3, this one will require another drawing. Pressure ulcers. Okay. If you open the course pack, no, meron na siyang chapter doon. You can find the answers to all of this in your Tortora. Okay. Stages of burns. Stages